from Air Force News at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Air Force News on assignment downrange. We go from Ramstein's flight line to Iraq and Afghanistan to see how Air Force doctors are treating those injured on the front lines. With reports from Tech Sergeants Paul Hughes, Pachari Luki, and Tony Castro, along with your host, Staff Sergeant John Somheil.
It is perhaps our most noble mission, taking care of those sick and injured from Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, and bringing them home. Welcome to Air Force News on Assignment. I'm Staff Sergeant John Somheil. In this edition, we'll look at how Air Force medicine supports our troops downrange, with clinics and tent hospitals, in the field and in the air, on air evac flights home. We'll meet the doctors and nurses, EMEDs and technicians that perform this job, taking care of those injured on the front lines. It's about an hour before dark. An air evacuation team based out of Ramstein Air Base in Germany is packing up for a run. Tonight's mission is to Baghdad, where patients from all over Iraq are gathering to make the trip to Germany. Doctors, nurses, and med techs make up the air evacuation team, each especially trained to care for patients in the air.
I have flown OEF and OIF missions for the last year and a half, and personally I think the operation here is outstanding. You couldn't ask for a better crew, a better operation. Extremely good teamwork going on constantly, good attitudes, and everyone wants to do the best job they can for the missions and for the guys and the girls and women downrange.
Waiting downrange are about 20 patients. At least that's the latest information. The team gets a full briefing on whom they'll pick up and their medical problems, but that information is volatile.
We're used to it changing because we have flown downrange a lot, and the mission always constantly evolving and always changing, and the patient load is always jumping up and down. We don't know what to expect in terms of critical care patient or just a regular, broken ankle or something like that. So we always have that little bit of, we don't know what's going to happen. And as soon as we get there and we start working, it all just becomes a real natural flow for us.
On the flight to Baghdad, the medical crew is passengers. The aircraft is loaded with cargo, and their real work won't begin until they're on the ground and the plane's empty. So for now, there's nothing the medics can do but pass the time.
When we're deadheading down, we're trying to relax because our mission could be 10 hours just trying to get back.
The most dangerous parts of the mission are landing and leaving Baghdad. The plane has to fly low and slow, making it an easy target.
It definitely adds an element of difficulty to the mission, just a lot more concerns. You're flying in a little more hostile environment. So there's precautions we take as an air crew, how we fly the approach.
So the plane goes dark, both inside and out. The flight crew waits until the last minute to descend, then drops out of the sky. The engines are pulled back all the way to idle, and they turn in an unpredictable pattern.
Sometimes it does get trying. We've landed just before the airfield got mortar attacked or something like that, and they tell us that, and it doesn't calm us our nerves that much, but it's exciting work, and we do enjoy it.
Sink rate.
They call it a combat landing.
50, 40. Sink rate. 30.
It's fast and can be nerve-wracking, but it's the safest way to land here. Welcome to Baghdad.
Feeling a little better, are you?
Breathe out. There you go. Ready to move? Move.
Airmen at this contingency aeromedical staging facility are getting ready for what is going to be a busy night. A convoy of Humvees carrying injured soldiers arrives, victims of one of scores of homemade bombs that continue to take a toll on coalition forces in Iraq.
Just kind of hit the passenger side and then shattered the windshield and embedded this in my seatbelt.
Shortly after the patients are unloaded, an Air Force C-130 arrives with more patients. Injuries range from those sedated because of the extent of their injuries to the walking wounded.
We had an IED attack in Baghdad this morning. We have about 40 patients.
some from C-130 from other parts of Iraq, and just some from downtown.
This operation stabilizes the patient so they can be medevac to Germany or the United States for extensive medical treatment. It can handle up to 100 patients for 3 days. First Lieutenant Jennifer Walter began her medical career in an emergency room. But working here, according to Walter, is a wake-up call.
I've seen, injuries and wounds and death before, but this has definitely affected me unlike anything else. Nothing can prepare you. Some days are harder than others.
For the airmen on this night working here along the flight line at Baghdad International Airport, the arrival of another group of patients is, unfortunately, like a lot of other nights.
Ready? Move!
Where are you putting CCAS equipment?
In Baghdad, the hospital staff briefs the crew on the patients they'll take back to Germany. No one's surprised that the number of patients has changed again. What is surprising is the number has lowered since they left Ramstein.
Who's the most critical AE patient, do you know?
As soon as the last pallets are unloaded, the medics take over the space, turning the empty cargo hold into a flying hospital ward. Supports go up that will eventually hold patients' beds. There's oxygen lines, electricity, and restraints. All have to be assembled before the first patients come on board.
We're setting up the aircraft for ambulatory and for litter patients. We just got to, I think you remember I told you at the beginning of the mission, load might change, and it changed dramatically. So we're setting up for ambulatory right now, putting it on the evidence seats. We're putting up our litters right now.
In the back, the air evac crew is ready. After 4 hours of preparations at Ramstein, a 5-hour, 2,000-mile flight, the combat landing at Baghdad, and an hour on the ground, they're ready for their first patient. But the patients aren't coming. There's a problem, and it looks like the mission could be scrapped.
We got a busted fuel line that they're going to try and cap off, so we can, hopefully, if we can get the line capped, we'll be able to go and load our patients and go back to Ramstein. If they don't have any caps for the line, we're probably going to RON here.
RON means rest overnight. It's not a good option for the air evacuation team, but their options are scarce.
They're probably working that. There may be other aircraft that they could divert in because there's an urgent patient that needs to get out right away. But if they're not able to divert an aircraft in, then we'll have to spend the night here.
Getting another plane is ruled out. Plus, there's another factor that's quickly becoming a problem: time. They only take off from Baghdad under cover of darkness. If the plane's not fixed and the patient's boarded and ready to fly soon, they won't be able to take off. Then the air and medical crews will have to stay in Baghdad at least until tomorrow night. And their patients, including 2 people in critical condition, have to wait another day for the advanced medical care they need. It's an urgent situation, but all these medics can do now is wait. We'll return in a moment to find out if the air evac team in Baghdad is able to complete their mission, and we'll also go to the front lines of Operation Enduring Freedom. Stay with us.
Combat fitness, it's a way of life.
Chief Gary Coleman and I are at Baghdad International Airport saying hello to a bunch of our U-Safety warriors that are over here. You've heard me say this before, we're the most intimidating and inspirational Air Force in the world. Well, we're visiting with intimidation.
For most of us, it's our families that provide that inspiration. They truly inspire us to be the intimidators that we are.
These airmen behind us are what cause enemy air forces to lose sleep at night.
Bring your courage.
Shaping us into a fitter force, USAFE's combat programs.
Combat education was founded by General Foguson and is a program designed to remove barriers that hinder airmen in USAFE from pursuing advanced education. Mission requirements and operations tempo make pursuing higher education difficult. Combat education seeks to counter those obstacles through flexible class scheduling and location.
Keeping us fit for the fight, USAFE's combat programs.
In Baghdad, an air evacuation crew is sitting on the tarmac, ready to bring OIF sick and injured back to Germany for advanced medical care. Now, we fly these missions all the time, but this one is taking a turn for the worse. And if they don't get a break soon, the mission will be scrubbed before they can see their first patient. We'll get with the air evac crew in a minute, but first we go to Tallil, Iraq, where they're seeing their fair share of patients as well.
Tim, here's the deal. You have a fairly deep cut in your scalp, okay? That's bleeding significantly. That means you're going to have to take the
The 4077th Expeditionary Medical Group at Tallil Air Base in Iraq provides medical care from Basra to Baghdad, a distance stretching 300 miles.
Breathe out. There you go.
Point off to the side.
Yeah, we're in a narrow area, sir.
There's going to be a big bump here, Tim.
In the last year, they've seen 16,000 patients. That's the equivalent of what a medium-sized medical facility in the States would see in that same period of time. They see everything from the common cold to major traumatic events. No matter what, though, many times with the first major medical care, people in Iraq will see. This compound houses the medical facility at Tallil. Inside this long hallway are the services you'd expect for field conditions. There's beds waiting for the injured. A dental clinic is ready for patients, but the emergency room is where the most action takes place.
I appreciate it. How old are you?
Get up there.
What happens pretty much is out in the field, someone's out in the field, and for us, they'll get in an accident, a high-speed motor vehicle accident. Someone will initiate a call. The combat medics that are stationed out in the OR will respond. They will assess what's going on at the scene, and then if they determine that this person's going to need medevac, then they will get in touch with, they'll do a 9 line and get in touch with our dust-off asset.
This is the Medical Control Center where the process of patient care begins. What happens is this field radio goes off. From there, the staff grabs what's called a 9-line form. Looks just like this right here. What they're looking for is the number of patients, the types of injuries, nationality of the patients that they'll have, and also how secure the site is where they are. That's important to the air crews going to recover the patients, as well as the hospital staff that will take care of them. On this day, a 9-line has come into the Medical Control Center, and an Army Black Hawk helicopter is returning with an injured soldier.
Once we find out that they're like about 10 minutes out, then we'll send the ambulance out to the dust-off location so that they can do the transport. Dust-off will put them into the ambulance and then bring them back here, and then we'll take care of them.
The short trip from the landing area to the hospital gives the medics a chance to find out what's wrong with the patient.
You hurt anywhere?
Oh, my arm is really... Don't touch it.
His arm?
Yes, just don't touch it, please.
Okay.
Tell him to please give me something for the
They
pain.
will.
Because I can't take this no more.
Okay. I'll let them know exactly what's wrong with me.
I can't take the pain anymore.
What's your name?
Consuelo.
Consuelo. What's your last name, Consuelo?
Scroggins.
Scroggins, okay. Consuelo, how old are you?
I'm 27 years
27 years old, okay. Can you tell me what happened, Consuelo?
I went flying out of the truck and I couldn't hold on to anything.
Where were you seated in the truck?
Yeah, I was sitting in the front passenger seat.
In the front passenger
Yes.
seat? Okay.
What are vitals looking like? 32 or 72? 63? Were any where'd the medic go? Were any medications given on the scene? None? In any kind of trauma type experience, the thing you're most worried about is the worst case scenario. And so we really want to make sure, does this individual have a potential life or limb threatening injury? Do they have potentially a cervical spine injury or something that could be extremely deleterious and possibly life-threatening in the immediate case? And listen to your tummy here. Listen to your tummy. I'm not going to move your arm. Once you get beyond that situation, then you start progressing in terms of their further care. Here, I want you to grab my fingers. Good. 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 Excellent. Relax. We wanted to make sure that her heart was in good shape, her lungs were perfusing well, her pelvis was stable, and so on and so forth, and there was no blood in her abdomen. before we start looking at the extremities. So you kind of look at the big things first, what's going to be the most life-threatening, and then we start moving out accordingly. I'm going to take a look at you here. I'm going to look at your legs. Good capillary response. Okay, Consuela, Consuela, do you feel my hand? Push down on it. Push down on it. Come on, hard. Good. Push down on my hand over here. Atta girl. Now, pull them up. Pull up your feet. Atta girl. Atta girl. Atta girl. Captain Becker, let's go ahead and give her 2 milligrams of morphine. Okay. What are you getting on board there, Samantha? Excellent.
Just make the pain go away.
Well, we've given you some morphine, and as that gets on board, I'll probably give you some more. Let's see how you do with this first set, okay? We've already got some on board. We're going to get some more on as necessary. We're going to take it one step at a time, okay? The thing about morphine, it's a great pain reliever, but if we give you too much, then it doesn't help you breathe very easily, okay? So we want to be very careful, okay? Deep breath, please. Good. Good.
Yep. Let me take this jacket off.
Okay. I want to do one other thing. I got to look at her back, folks.
You feel any difference with that medicine we gave you? No. Okay.
Probably give her another 2 here in just a minute.
Okay, you ready?
Why don't you take her head? If you'll take her shoulders and really support this one, you'll feel it's pretty firm. I think we got something going on. We need one other person on her legs. Okay, we can roll her back.
It's just sore.
Okay, dear.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
My arm.
Yep, we got it. We've got it.
You're doing good.
The good news? Specialist Scroggins x-rays show no breaks so far.
Okay, so we want to get x-rays of your shoulder and that elbow, okay? Yeah, I can tell that morphine's starting to work a little bit, isn't it? After we went ahead and did what we call the primary and secondary evaluations, and we took multiple x-rays first to rule out any cervical neck fracture, trauma to her chest or pelvis, we learned that she had a significant surgical neck fracture of the right humerus with displacement of the head. And at present time, she's been transported over to the operating room where she's having a closed reduction of this particular fracture.
Due to the nature of the surgery, no cameras were allowed in. However, an update was given immediately after it was completed.
And an initial x-ray showed some comminution. And because we don't have any CT scans, I wanted to do better exam and get a better x-ray under anesthesia and attraction. So we didn't really do surgery. It was more of a conscious sedation, and I got a good x-rays and reduced the fracture. And after I did that, x-ray showed a lot worse fracture than I expected. She had a multiple comminution. She had appears to have a 4-part fracture of a proximal humerus. So I placed her in a coaptation splint, and we're planning on sending to Germany further evaluation and treatment. And she may need to go forward to the stateside to get a definitive treatment done.
Well, in this kind of situation, a lot of people may just think, well, she's had a traumatic injury, as long as she's comfortable and you manage her pain and that's it. But there's a lot more to it. You take care of the whole person that's there. She's hurt. She's in a foreign country. She's away from her family. There's a lot more emotional support that comes along with the physiological support. And part of that is making sure that she stays comfortable and she stays injury-free. She already has some traumatic injuries. Let's make sure that nothing else happens to her while she's here. So.
A C-141 has landed at Bagram Air Base. In a few minutes, about a dozen patients from Bagram's Army Hospital will board the flight to Ramstein Air Base, Germany. While the big cargo plane is refueled, the patients at Bagram's Hospital get on ambulances for the drive to the flight line. Getting these patients airborne is the job of the 376th Expeditionary Aeromedical Evacuation Squadron. Normally, patients are sent out of the country via Air-Evac if they're unable to return to duty within 7 days. First Lieutenant Catherine Books is Director of Operations for the 376th. She manages medical air crews and coordinates loads with the cargo plane's crews.
Often they'll have the plane already pre-planned for a load, so when they get a tasker saying that Air-Evac is taking space, they have to replan the whole load. And sometimes we're doing it right there on the spot.
A mission is scheduled for this night. Lieutenant Brooks relays that information to registered nurse Captain Jim Postlethwaite. He prepares the patients for their flights.
While the life of an AES crew can change from day to day, there's a healthcare provider here at Bagram who deals with more routine medical issues.
Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Leroy White's job is to keep 600 Air Force people at Bagram Air Base healthy. He does it by seeing patients 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The numbness occurs because when this gets inflamed, the radial nerve has branches. They spread out like this.
Dr. White sees patients with a variety of symptoms, from allergy complaints to sprained ankles. The long hours don't bother him, though.
When some of the guys come in because they're injured, the question that they always have before I can even treat them is, will I be able to go back and do my job? Because what they want to do is go out there and take care of the airplane.
Dr. White's tiny office is in a building that doesn't have running water. It was built by the Soviet Army when it occupied the area in the 1980s. Patients he can't help, he sends up the road to the Army hospital. But he does everything he can.
It's difficult not to want to take care of them. You want to do whatever you can do to get them back out there to take care of the airplanes, because those airplanes are very important to them.
And very important to winning the war on terror. Dr. White is also responsible for public health and bioenvironmental care.
We have a lot of leakage of sewage and other waters into the ground. So as a result of that, we recommend that the water not be drank.
Just the same, Dr. White tasks the other member of his two-person staff, Airman First Class Christopher Lockwood, with testing the water every day.
We pretty much just make sure the chlorine level is not too high, and it tends to dry out everybody's skin, so we get a lot of skin rashes.
Dr. White and Airman Lockwood spend countless hours in and out of the office, making sure the airmen of Bagram are well taken care of. Now it's after midnight, and the air evac patients are ready for their 8-hour flight west. The 376 has its own flight crews, but they have the night off. Instead, Captain Postlethwaite will put the patients in the capable hands of a Ramstein crew. That's not a problem, but he'd prefer to send his own folks to Germany.
They drop the patients off, and then they can stay there for anywhere from half an hour to 3 or 4 days, depending on if they can get a flight back down here. Plus, they get to bring us back bread and stuff like that, so that helps the morale of everybody else, too.
Tonight's mission was a relatively easy one for Lieutenant Brooks, since the C-141 already had a medical crew and was already configured.
With the C-17, usually the cargo compartment is full, and we have to coordinate the offload, then get our crew on, let them configure the airplane, and then have to coordinate the onload of the cargo that's going on in conjunction with patients.
With the patients safely transferred, Lieutenant Brooks and Captain Postlethwaite's job is done. For tonight, they'll be ready to do it all again tomorrow.
It's about 10 hours into the mission. The air evacuation team's flown from Ramstein to Baghdad to take about 20 sick, injured, and wounded service members, including 2 in critical condition, back to Germany. But a fuel leak may keep the medics and their patients in Baghdad at least for another day. Finally, they get the break they desperately need, and the mission's a go. But already they have another factor working against them.
Right now, we're waiting on the patients to come out to the plane so we can load them on, and the aircraft commander just told us that we have a very short window to do that, or we won't be able to take off because we won't have protection as far as the planes flying overhead and everything protecting us on takeoff. So now we're kind of in a hurry-up mode.
Finally, after 4 hours of prep work, a 5-hour, 2,000-mile flight, and 2 more uncertain hours in Baghdad, the air evac team gets their first patient, and now they have to hurry.
Coming on the left. Ready? Move.
Going right there, going right there. Better move. Ready? Move.
It's wonderful. It's a good challenge. Come this way, please. Come this way.
Watch your step. Off to the left. Off to the left.
Okay, spotted straight on.
This is what we do. This is our office. This is every day.
Two of the patients on the flight are in critical condition. 2 specialized teams called Sea Cats are on board. Specifically to care for the critical patients, a doctor, nurse, and respiratory therapist make up each CCAT. They're trained to care for patients above and beyond normal air evacuations, the most critical.
CCAT stands for Critical Care Air Transport Team, and we're another component to the AE system, Evac system, and our mission is to fly to critical patients. We take them with very sophisticated equipment as it's pretty much a mobile intensive care. So we have the same capabilities as an intensive care in a hospital or in our tents, our attended hospitals, and we're able to fly the patients to the next destination for better, more sophisticated care.
Once the patients are secured, everyone gets ready to leave. Taking off from Baghdad is another vulnerable time for the plane and everyone on board. Once again, the aircraft goes dark, inside and out, and everyone straps in. The only people standing are the load masters. They keep watch out the windows for surface-to-air missiles. For everyone else in back, there's nothing to do but hold on. There's nothing to look at. We just wait. The pilots get us off the ground and climb as fast as possible. The higher they get, the safer. This mission cut it close. They were able to take off just before first light. Tonight, the medics have a light patient load. Each CCAT team has only one patient. Hopefully now, it's just a routine flight back to Germany.
And during flight, it's just like a regular hospital. You meet their needs, you give their patients the medications that's ordered. If they deteriorate, if there's a problem, you treat it just as if we were, sitting in Ramstein lawn stool.
So they monitor each patient carefully on the trip back to Germany. Luckily, there are no surprises on tonight's mission. Back at Ramstein, ambulances are waiting to take the patients to Landstuhl. The Evac team put in an 18-hour day bringing these patients back to Germany. In 2 days, they may be flying again. That mission brought about 25 patients to the hospital at Landstuhl for advanced medical care. A dozen or more Evac missions bring sick, injured, and wounded from operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom to Ramstein every month as part of America's commitment to take care of those injured on the front lines. And that's Air Force News on Assignment. I'm Staff Sergeant John Salmhouse. Thanks for watching.
We feel like we're fulfilling a really important job here. Not only have we touched people's lives, but they've touched our lives, and we're going to be different people than we were when we first left. Probably the number one thing we're seeing is motor vehicle accidents, and with the convoys that are constantly running, the amount of dust, the fatigue factor that happens, especially with the rising temperatures, a number of injuries will continue to occur, and a lot of trauma as well.